All right, that thumbnail was a little harder to do than I thought. Uh, take this off carefully so as to not prematurely wear down the elastics. I'm not in a rush situation right now, anyways. Yeah, so unfortunately, live does not have an option for pausing. Um, but at least it gives me a time for my brain to kind of get that off, get the humor, get me composed. I intentionally didn't finish spelling the master, which was originally kind of my title for this message. And oh, I don't have the invisibility. Well, sometimes it's easier not to look directly at the camera or screen. So, yeah, so can we not just? No, but then I'm also not blocking this. Well, you're gonna have to excuse the mess. Mom's like, "Oh, you tidy up the well." That's how we live our lives sometimes, and I think a lot of that, I'm learning my counseling courses, especially the human development that I'm taking with Kathy. um, you know, how like how our growing up affected our personality. I think I think a lot of why I've been struggling with this for so long is because I've been just because of previous exposure and like people think, oh, why are you doing this or whatever, it's kind of like Micah saying, like he had to be real about his own struggle with masturbation when he talked about his message, the compromise of porn, which, well, you're gonna see it in the thing, so can't really do a lot of anonymity by not giving this first person's name, this person's last name. But and same thing with Shantel when I mentioned her in this. If I, when she did her series on masturbation, there's once it's in the link, you'll be able to find out who it is if you want to. So, anyways, yeah. So I will still look at the camera sometimes, but and I guess like I just kind of felt like I'm kind of on the roll, just gonna keep the momentum going with these messages because I finally was able to get a Sabbath after more than 7 days. But but at the same time, like it's kind of hard when you schedule things, and like my counselor over the summer suggested that I always should take a break, at least once a day. So but then the problem is that you do that, and then it's like that eats up your time in the week. It adds up, right? And it's like, so when are you going to be able to actually set aside a full like 10 hours straight or something similar to that to take a break? There's just no time to take a break. It's like kind of like in my last message where I said, oh, I gotta take a break from this so that I'm taking a break to allocate more time to study. It's like well, actually I'm actually so the funny thing is, and maybe we will do a written a write up on Instagram at some point too. Is that I spilled some food the other day and I had to clean it up, and it kind of reminded me that yes, I cleaned it up, I vacuumed, I wiped down, and then after I picked up the bigger pieces by hand, but at the same time, there's from the sub, like I mentioned in the other message, at a sub-molecular level, there's no way I can totally clean up the mess of my room. So in the same way, I can't clean up the mess that masturbation leaves behind, um, the sin. So you can only clean up so much. So I need to rely on Jesus instead to help to clean up the rest, right? So that's sort of that. Anyways, I guess like there's no privacy because of technology, like I wrote about in one of my other papers. Because I was looking up Genesis 38. That I was like trying to, what passage is Shantel and friends talking about again? So I found that, and then I I got into the situation where it's like where it was like, okay, well, um because I guess my Google account is also logged into other devices, or even my Apple account. I don't know. Somehow there's some like whatever the link. Yeah, because I guess it's the same. Actually, yes, because I was playing Pokemon and there was the Google account is also logged into this device as well. Even though anyways, long story short, I got into my Apple article notifications. Like I said, it's Apple, not Google. But well, I guess it's all marketing, so they're all one now. They said these are like 25 G-rated Disney movements that made people feel in R-rated ways. So this is from Hannah Madar, BuzzFeed staff, October 11th, 10:46 p.m. And just a joke about some of these, they're like, oh, when Magnificent captures Philip and ties him up in Sleeping Beauty, somebody wrote, it was a lot, especially the way she addresses him. Started me down the BDSM train for sure. Or when Liu Shang takes off his top in Mulan. Listen, Liu Shang taking off his shirt in Mulan makes me inhuman noises every time. When Kilda leads Milo into the water in Atlantis, little me thought it was the stuff of dreams. The scene of Kaida removing her long skirt, I felt like using the restroom. Glad to see I'm not the only one. So, I was trying to make some jokes, and but I guess like the funny thing is like this is kind of happening in the another peak COVID season, and I was like, oh, at first I was like, but then I was like, oh, eventually some people got to there, but it could just be people doing it remotely still. I was like, maybe it's a good sign that there's nobody doing the Pokemon raid, because people are actually not not spreading around the virus during this time. But unfortunately, I think it's the opposite, and it's like but I made the joke about how it's sort of like maybe it's good I didn't go or use up my remote pass to go in if I didn't want to rush, because I had only 2 minutes to make it there because I didn't check the notification frequently, so I was like, oh no, I only got 2 minutes to make it there. It's like, that's got to put on the mask, transfer my custom insoles to the other shoes. I was like, oh my goodness. But I could use a remote pass for those who know the game. And then that would be like, but then I was like, well, that would also hinder me from possibly using the remote pass with friends that with people I have a more genuine friendship with. And then that was like, that's sort of selfish of me. So it's not a good use of my my Pokeballs. Kind of like my other joke, you need a lot of balls to catch Pokemon. But anyways, I think God does work through all things. So I think, there's a good metaphor there where, when I talk about I talk about my Pokemon conquests or lack thereof with my friend T, for example. So, we get oh, so my friend T also asked me, it's like, so what's your take on the what's your like whole opinion about this so that's why I got some notes there from that about masturbation. And I mentioned things like if everybody had their own wife or spouse, and they can come to some understanding of being willing to, as Paul says, fulfill the marital duty in 1 Corinthians 7 to each other, then there would be probably nobody masturbating whatsoever. Um, and also, oh, the other reason why I think that Disney article came up is because I was looking up this double checking, because I think there was like a YouTube video that somehow ended up in ads. It was like, this is a long ad. It's like over an hour. It's like I was watching like, sermons, and then they're like they're talking about marriage and sex or whatever. It's the 7 golden something. I don't remember what the full name was. And I listened to that message, and they're talking about like, it was from the context of marriage. And then I was like, okay, well then, how can I also get 21 ejaculations a month, as opposed to what they're saying, that it's actually scientifically proven, you know, from a health and medical standpoint, like, and it's like basically they're saying like, it's very easy to get 21 ejaculations a month, because like, because of the cleansing period of a woman in a period. So it's sort of part of the biological design, right? But anyways, I tend to Calvin says sometimes I tend to ramble, so I will try to go back to focus. Also because I have a time limitation, and apparently I don't know, but anyways, apparently some of you may only watch like maybe 5-10 minutes of my videos and then just give up as well. So getting back to it, yes, so I also feel that I had to endure, that's the word, endure, a lot of because I looked that up in the Spanish translation, because apparently they translated Spanish as resist with an e, resiste, or resista, whatever, however you pronounce that in Spanish. And then, oh, wrong database. But it was interesting that the translators picked that word, because that Spanish word is also talking about like, resisting food and stuff like that, like I mentioned about spilling food earlier. Endure. So what does it say here? Resiste. So for example, they use a few examples in context of that word, the Spanish word, and they gave the English translation. So resist the urge to be nice to those people. Resist the temptation to pick up your mobile phone. Hold on, Jared, get you to the volcano. So I think like eventually I started, experiencing some side effects of cold turkey and masturbation. I think that I actually had to go through some strong weeks of enduring, and and it was it was not easy, but I praise Jesus that I am able to get through it, and I am able to live a more I guess good steward farmer life. As like I did pull up some of the other scripture, like the Matthew 13 again, which I already mentioned at some of the other videos, but if there's something I can pull out of it. Well, there's other parables they mention here. And I guess like what I'm gonna end this message with, and I'm gonna make it short then, is that I think that we shouldn't be too judgmental of certain sins, whether it be masturbation, lying, people maybe like using things without using software without licenses, or like watching like illegal streaming or whatever it is. Everybody, like I said in the other video, will have their shortcoming. There's no perfect church, there's no perfect pastor, there's no so I think we need to keep that in mind. And even Jesus didn't have a good reputation, as it says in the end of Matthew 13, despite the fact that he was the you know, the perfect everything, because of the by you know, by being God, even though, you know, as it says in another letter. I wonder what, but anyways, without, I'm going, my friend Sarah suggested not to deep dive into something when I haven't had a chance to to do research on that. But so I'm just going to read to end, um, Matthew 13, 53 to 58. When Jesus has finished these parables, he moved on from there. Coming to his hometown, he began teaching the people in their synagogue, and they were amazed. Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers? They asked. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? Aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? Aren't all his sisters with us? Where did this man get these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. And he did not do many miracles because of their lack of faith. So, as you can see, there's you know, the one thing I gather here is like, okay, so they're saying like, you know, isn't this guy just like normal? Like, isn't he just, you know, as corrupt as the rest of us, sort of, so to speak? And then like, he did not do miracles because of their lack of faith. So I think like, you know, we need mercy for others, but also mercy for ourselves, and just like not condemn ourselves just because of, you know, like you know, Peter, for example, for denying Jesus. So just because, you know, of things that you may have you know, struggled with in your walk of God. And, you know, I started masturbating before I became a Christian. So, you know, I already had, you know, that sort of like, and it's just like, and I totally agree with Shantel and friends. Like, you know, like it's totally like, you know, the problem is people, you know, tell you that it's, that it's, what is either immoral, some people use the word wrong, or whatever, that it's sinful, whatever, but they don't really explain it well enough. So I commend them for doing a fairly good job, you know, in terms of like, okay, why are we like, you know, so, you know, why do we need to try to get that out of our system, so to speak? That's I'm going to end this with that pun.